Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka. So my presentation is about the IESL, the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka. Right. I'll make a small presentation here about the activities of IESL, and we have Engineer Tilak De Silva. He is the chairman of the Engineering Council of Sri Lanka. So he will talk about the related matters with the Engineering Council. So I'll share my presentation with you now. Right, the presentation is very simple, the IESL. Right, so this is the presentation, and I am Udari Navagamo from the Department of Civil Engineering, and also I am a council member of the IESL. If you just look at the qualifications I have, yeah, you can see everywhere ENG is there. BSc Engineering, Master of Engineering, Doctor of Engineering, and Chartered Engineer. Right, and also the other one is a Fellow of Engineers Sri Lanka. Right, all are engineers. So I am proud to say that I am an engineer and I represent the engineering community. So here today, I will talk about the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka to very fresh students, those who are coming to engineering profession in 4 years' time, right? So first of all, I would like to talk about the IESL vision. So vision is be amongst the leading professional institutions in engineering and technology in the world, right? The vision of the IESL is to become a leading professional institution in engineering and even technology in the global world. The mission, it means to achieve this one, that we have the mission that is to be the apex national body of engineers in Sri Lanka. It means the highest national body of engineers Sri Lanka, which ensures internationally recognized and locally relevant standards in the professional practice. So we have to maintain internationally recognition, and also whatever we do, we have to have it like locally relevant standards. We have the British standards, US standards, so whatever the standards, but even in engineering standards, we have to have locally relevant standards in the professional practice and education in engineering. So that there are two parts that IESL has. One is the professional practice that I will explain the things that IESL does on the professional practice, and also to recognize the engineering education in the country, and also to help the engineering institutions in the country to maintain the relevant standards. So while actively supporting national development, right, as IESL, even if you had read the newspapers yesterday, Engineer Tilak De Silva and our team went to meet the Prime Minister of the country and produce a kind of proposals that we can do for the with the present situation we have in the country, right? So that we had proposed several measures that would help the country to come up from that situation, right? And also they are supporting national development and diligently serving its members, right? So one of the purpose of IESL is to serve its members. We have 20,000 number of members in the membership. So that one purpose of the IESL is to serve the members, serve their requirements. So there are different things I'll explain during my presentation. What are the things that we can do? And at the end, the society, whatever we do, it is for the society, right? So I was just talking this one to the first year students always, that so if you become engineers, when you become engineers, you will have a good professional life in the country. It means that if everybody is having that type of good life, right? So country is anyway developed, right? So that society, that if we can give something from that to the society, that will be very useful. So what are the main activities that we have at the IESL, right? So number one, that you can become a student member. So there are different membership categories. So you can become a student member, right? So we have this enrollment of members, ensuring that professional titles are granted to them only based on their competencies. What is the meaning of this? So you can become an engineer, right? So after obtaining your BSc engineering degree, there you will get the associate membership. And once you achieve the charter, it means after 4 years of industrial training, design, and after submission of some documents, sitting for some papers done by the IESL, so you can get the charter, right? So that the IESL is responsible for those granting these professional titles, that you just it doesn't mean that anybody can be a chartered engineer after the graduation, but there are certain steps that you have to follow that you can become a chartered engineer. So those are the things that IESL is ensuring, that all these professional titles are granted to the members based on their competencies only. And then second activity is to promote the study of engineering. We have young members section that when you become a student member, you will have a lot of involvement with the young members section. They go to rural schools and promote the engineering. They make presentations, they do lectures, they organize activities in those rural schools and promote the study of engineering. So that we need, right? So we have, as IESL, as the institution, we need to promote the study of engineering. It is not only in Colombo, Galle, Mataro, Kandy, but in other areas also we have to promote the study of engineering. And the third is the establishing and maintaining standards for engineering education by acting as an accreditation body. I will come to this accreditation. There are two parts. We have, one is called accreditation, the other one is called the recognition of degrees. IESL is the only responsible agency or the institution to say this is an accredited degree, this is a recognized engineering degree to work in Sri Lanka. So that IESL main activity, one of the main activities to recognize or they accredit the engineering institution. The other one, the establishing and maintaining standards for the professional practice of engineering. So that is another very important thing that IESL is bound to do, right? So IESL has to maintain and establish standards. And also for the members, once you graduate, you may think that is enough. No, it is not enough. That we have to have continuing professional developments. So you have to have several workshops. Let's say now, you may not understand if I say now, let's say now you have to have some course on the project management, right? So you have, after serving for 2-3 years, you realize that you need to get some understanding about the project management, right? So IESL is organizing those short courses, workshops. Those are called continuing professional development. We call CPD. So those are the main activities that I wanted to highlight that is done by IESL. So if I talk about the history of the IESL, that is also very important to know. The IESL is actually, it was called Engineering Association of Ceylon and was formed on January 6, 1906. Now you can see 116 years old, right? So the objective was to facilitate the acquisition of technical knowledge, right? So that at that time, it was just technical knowledge, but it is called the Engineering Association of Ceylon. So this was done in 1906, and Engineer Cooper was appointed as the first president. In 1956, the association was reconstituted to become the Institute of Engineers Ceylon. Now we call Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka. At that time in 1956, it was named as the Institute of Engineers Ceylon. And then in 1958, they obtained the membership of the Commonwealth Engineering Conference. The meaning is, until 1972, we were under the Queen. So it means the institution obtained the membership of the Commonwealth Engineering Conference. So it means we were equivalent to others, those who were under the Queen. And in 1968, it was admitted to be a member of the World Federation of Engineering Organization. It means IESL, or at that time it is the Ceylon. It was equivalent to all the engineering associations in the world. So it was in the same year that the institution was incorporated by an Act of Parliament. It means when we have an Act of Parliament, so we have so much of powers, right? So that others cannot, anybody, it's like this, that only the qualified members can become members. Only the qualified members can use the engineer title, like that, that there are a lot of things when we have an Act of Parliament. In 1996, the name of the institution was changed as the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka. So because it was there as Ceylon, now it becomes, it changed an amendment to the 1968 Act, right? So that if you just see the summary, we started in 1906 as Engineering Association, and then in 1956 it became an Institute of Engineers Ceylon, and then in 1968 it was incorporated by an Act of Parliament, and in 1996 it became the IESL. And then the most important thing that these days people were talking about is the IESL became a signatory to the Washington Accord. That was in 2014. So when you became a signatory to the Washington Accord, when we have a four-year full-time engineering degree programs that is accredited by the IESL. So those are substantially equivalent to four-year engineering degree programs that have been accredited by the other signatories. Who are the other signatories? Like US, Japan, Australia, Malaysia, India, like that. There are several countries. Those are the other signatories to the Washington Accord. The meaning is, if you have a Washington Accord accredited degree, so you are equivalent to those other programs in the other countries. So then a signatory to the Washington Accord is empowered by the Accord to accredit only those degrees programs conducted within the jurisdiction, that is the country of the signatory, right? So that if you have, let's say now, when you say Moratuwa, Peradeniya, and Runa, all these programs are accredited by the Washington Accord, right? So it is bit higher than the recognition, right? So when we say Moratuwa, Peradeniya, Runa are Washington Accord accredited degrees are there. And then, so this is again about the same thing. The Washington Accord is an international agreement among bodies responsible for accrediting engineering degree programs. So I have already mentioned this one. It recognizes the substantial equivalency of programs accredited by those bodies and recommends that graduates of programs accredited by any of the signatory bodies be recognized by the other bodies as having met the academic requirements for entry to the practice of engineering. The meaning is this: when you become a signatory to the Washington Accord, you must, let's say Sri Lanka must accept the other signatory countries as equivalent. And also when we go to Australia, let's say that Australia must accept that this is an equivalent degree program. So these members are that you can see: Australia, Canada, Chinese Taipei, Hong Kong, China, India, Ireland, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, Russia, Singapore, South Africa, Turkey, UK, and US are the other signatories to the Washington Accord. So that I always highlight this one, that they must recognize this as equivalent to their degrees, right? So that is the most important part in this Washington Accord. And then we have this International Professional Engineers Agreement, or we call IPEA. So IESL is a member of the IPEA. So this IPEA is an agreement that facilitates cross-border practice by experienced professional engineers. It is kind of international practicing, right? So you can practice in different countries. In general, this means that a professional engineer of one IPA member country will be able to practice in another IPA member country without being required to obtain any additional qualifications or experience. So the meaning is, if you are a member of this IPA, or if we, let's say IESL is a member of IPA, if you obtain this INT P-Ing, it means International Professional Engineer qualification. So then you can practice in other member countries without obtaining additional qualifications or additional experience. See, other members are also Australia, Canada, Chinese Taipei, Hong Kong, China, yeah, India, Ireland, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, Singapore, South Africa, UK, and US. So that is the importance of obtaining this INT P-Ing or International Professional Engineering qualification. And then to obtain this International Professional Engineering INT PE, Sri Lanka, status from IESL under IPA criteria, an applicant has to be a chartered engineer with a 4-year engineering degree recognized by IESL, plus a minimum of 7 years experience after graduation, of which at least 2 years should have been in a responsible position, right? So you can achieve this as young students. You can see the situation that you can also become a chartered engineer, and also you can you can obtain this International Professional Engineer status we call INT PE. Right? With that, you can practice in other countries, that is called cross-border practice. The assessment will be through a competency-based assessment that is done once you apply for those things, and then there is a assessment scheme, and then there has to be a satisfactory level of continuing professional development annually, right? So you have to maintain a diary. So then when you maintain a diary, that you can show this in the interview, and also submit it along with your application, that what are the CPD activities you have done during your career. So what are the categories of membership we have? This is as at 2020, I could not update it. So we have more than 5,000 odd corporate members. We have 526 fellows. We have honorary fellows. Honorary fellows is they are more than 40 years of membership in the membership category, and they must be more than 60 years old. And we have associate members, those who just pass out from the university can get this associate membership. There are affiliate members, those who had that, actually it is not applicable to you, those who had done 3-year engineering degrees, like from UK, they have 3-year engineering degrees, and then student members like you, that you can get this student membership. The others are actually not engineers, they are kind of companions and associates. They are not engineers, they are well below, but they are helping the activities of IESL. That's why they are called companions and associates. And the chartered engineer, the most important target that you must be having when you obtain your degree. So in Sri Lanka, the award of chartered engineer C-Ing status is exclusive to the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka. This C-Ing, the chartered engineer status, can be given or can be awarded only by the IESL. So it is awarded to the corporate members of IESL. So you have to obtain this membership. Chartered engineers with corporate membership at IESL enjoy recognition by government, business, and the general public. So the thing is this, right? So when you have the C-Ing or the charter, you can sign the document. You have a seal called chartered engineer. So that is the advantage, that is the situation, that you will be recognized by the government or the society to get your signature, your seal, that you have the power to sign the documents. So that is very important. The chartered engineer represents the highest standards of the professionalism, the leadership, up-to-date expertise, quality and safety, and the ability to undertake independent practice. The meaning of chartered engineer is, once you obtain this chartered engineer, you must be able to do your independent practice. You must be able to advise the client independently. So you have that knowledge, you have that experience, you have that capacity. Once you design, once you recommend something, you put your seal. So that means you are responsible, right? So chartered engineer must be responsible after signing or after approving or after putting your seal. So then I want to talk about this accreditation and recognition. So IESL has been responsible for the recognition of engineering education programs in Sri Lanka, right? So that all these engineering degrees, whatever we have. So when we were students, we had only Peradeniya and Moratuwa. So now there are several other universities like Southeastern University, Jaffna University, and Sri Javardhanapura University. There are other degrees in addition to the MPR, Moratuwa, Peradeniya, Runa programs. Right. So all these programs must be recognized by the IESL, otherwise they can't practice in Sri Lanka. So the IESL is responsible for the recognition of such engineering programs. And we have, IESL has to give this consultative feedback, right? So what are the things lacking? What are the things to be improved? So that kind of process is happening within these engineering university, engineering faculties, and it is guided by the IESL. And there are standards that IESL is looking for when they visit the universities, they evaluate it, and then there will be an independent report, and then all the faculties accept those decisions that is given by the IESL. And recognition is a pre-requirement to accreditation of degree programs. It is, so once you have a recognition for a certain period, then you can apply for accreditation. That's how it has happened to Moratuwa University. When we were students, it was a recognized university, but I remember in 2010, we applied for the accreditation. And then in 2014, we got the fully accreditation situation to Moratuwa degrees. So being a signatory to the Washington Accord, I have already mentioned about this advantage of being a signatory to the Washington Accord. The 4-year full-time engineering degree programs accredited by the IESL will be considered as substantially equivalent, right? So not equal, it is a equivalent to 4-year engineering degree programs that have been accredited by the other signatories to the Washington Accord. That I have already mentioned, the countries like Japan, Canada, Hong Kong, Malaysia, US, UK, Australia, like there are several countries that those are signatories to the Washington Accord. That I have a small point there in this box. If the degree is not recognized or accredited, so what is the situation? Sorry, it is according to the present Parliament Act on the Engineering Council, you can't practice as an engineer. Right? That Engineer Tilak De Silva, we have here the chairman of the Engineering Council, that he will explain this one. Right? So you can't practice as an engineer, and also you can't use engineer. You are not allowed to use the term engineer. That when I say in front of my name, I always use engineer in front of my name. Like the medical doctors put doctor in front of their name, I will put engineer. Because I have an accredited, recognized degree obtained from Moratuwa University. If you are not a member of IESL, you can't use ENG and you can't practice engineering. So you must become a member of the IESL to use ENG. Otherwise, you can't use it according to the Parliament Act now. And also you can't practice engineering if you are not a member of the IESL. So there are several sectional committees, even that you can also involve in those activities, or they're carried out by these sectional committees. So we have agricultural and plantation engineering sectional committee. There are a lot of civil and mechanical engineers involved in. Recently, there are some electronics engineers also. They introduced new concepts in agricultural sector. And we have building services engineering sectional committee. There are normally we have civil, electrical, mechanical, all engineers, those who are working in this building services work, they form this committee. And we have the civil engineering sectional committee. Basically, all the work related to civil engineering are discussed, and those members are there in this committee. And we have chemical and process engineering, IT and communication engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical, electronics and telecommunication, some others, right? And also we have some overseas chapters, because once our engineers migrated to other countries, they wanted to have their own chapter and help Sri Lanka. So some of these are like New South Wales chapter in Australia, New Zealand chapter, Western Australia chapter, Qatar chapter, Queensland chapter, right? So there are different chapters. So they organize several activities, and then they they collect, or they get together in those countries in the like regional wise, and they organize activities, and sometimes they help the IESL also, sometimes they help the Sri Lankan community with their support. And then we have few provincial chapters in the country. One is Jaffna, that is called Wadakin chapter. We have Rajarata chapter, Wayamba, Eastern, Kandurata, Sabaragamu, Uva, and Runa chapters. Those are very active in Sri Lanka now, right? Because every time they don't have to come to Colombo and organize these CPD work or any other work, so they can do it in Jaffna, they can do it in Anuradhapura, they can do it in Kurunegala. So there are a lot of engineers in those areas, so they organize their activities, they work together, and sometimes they invite our council members to visit their work, and we observe that they are really organizing very professional work in their chapters, right? So once you become a member, like let's say after the graduation, you can become an associate member of IESL. So with this, you can also become a chapter member if you are working in Jaffna, if you are working in Anuradhapura, likewise, that you can become a member of these chapters and actively involved in those works organized by those chapters. And there are few university chapters as well. At the moment, we have Moratuwa University Student Chapter, Ruhuna, Peradeniya, and Jaffna, Southeastern, and also Open University Student Chapter. I think there is another one that I should add, right? So that is the student chapter of the University of Sri Javardhanapura. So that is also very active now, right? I remember that last year I made a presentation to them as well, right? So there is that University of Sri Javardhanapura, also a very active student chapter. And there are several forums in the IESL at the moment. One is called Women Forum, Women Engineers Forum. There are a lot of women engineers. Actually, as you know, it is compared to the men, it is very less in number, but they are very good in organizing activities. There are a lot of members got together and they do a lot of activities in IESL by this Women Engineers Forum. And we have, I told you about the YMS, Young Members section, that is a very active one. They go to schools, they go to rural areas and promote engineering. They do a lot of activities, and sometimes they conduct competition among the engineering students. They do a lot of good work, right? This is the Young Members section. And we have Water Forum. Water Forum is talking about the water problems in the country and the things related to water. And also we have National Policy Forum, that we are discussing how to help the country or how to formulate policies. And then we have recently Energy Forum. This Energy Forum is very important. As young students, you must understand the importance of this energy forum now, right? So to discuss and propose kind of applicable energy proposals to the country. And there are few annual events that you can participate as engineering students. One is the Techno. This is the only engineering and technology exhibition in the country that is called Techno. I remember few years our Moratuwa University Engineering Faculty stall won the best stall award at Techno. For that, our engineering students work very hard and then make it very attractive and won this best award at the Techno. And we have annual sessions. When you are in the final year, you do research and you can present your research at the annual sessions. And also we have young members technical conference. That is also another forum that you can present your research ideas to the engineering community. And there is another important one called Junior JIY, that is called Junior Inventor of the Year. Right? So that if you have inventions, that actually that sometimes we even invite school children to present their inventions in this Junior Inventor of the Year competition. And we have inter-university debate competition. It was started like very recently, like last 2 years we started. It is very active debate competitions. We saw that students are debating on current themes, and it was very interesting. And these days actually we could not have this cricket fiesta with these chapters from all over the country. They come to Colombo, and then we reserve cricket grounds and have cricket fiesta. That was kind of an enjoyment to the members when they work in IESL as volunteers. And there are several member benefits that you must know when you become a student member, and later on after 4 years you become an associate member. Another 4 years after that you can become a chartered engineer, and also after 7 years of graduation you can become an international professional engineer. Like that, there is a ladder, right? So what are the member benefits, right? So once you become a member, that there is a recognition that you are a professional engineer, right? So that recognition is there. Otherwise, there are a lot of engineers, even sometimes some others, they even don't have an engineering degree. They are also engineers, but there is no recognition. Now, Engineer Tilak de Silva will talk about those things. And now others cannot claim that they are engineers, because that only IESL members can claim that they are engineers. So that we have this involvement in the development of the profession, right? So you can get those benefits, and also you can also involve in such activities. That is kind of a lifelong personal development that IESL is helping you for this lifelong personal development. And also there is an access to learned society events such as lectures, seminars, technical visits. Sometimes we last year we organized a visit to Port City. Sometimes I remember a visit to the Rosell tile factory. So there are several visits organized by IESL and so you can see the IESL website and also participate in such activities. And then we have library. We have very good library in the IESL that once you become a student member, you can go to the library and do studies. You can refer the journals. That there are a lot of journals coming to IESL library, and there is some kind of freedom there, that once you go to Colombo, you can stay some time in the IESL. And also the IESL will provide a network of technical and social contacts. Once you have all these activities, you will find the seniors in the same profession. So that will give a kind of recognition or kind of attachment when you go for an interview. You know that engineer because you have closely worked with them in the IESL activities. So there are a lot of benefits that you will get when you work for IESL. And international recognition, of course, that I have mentioned. And then you have the memberships and membership letters, that those are there. Then chartered engineer certificates and also chartered engineer seal. I have already talked about the importance of obtaining this chartered engineer seal. And then we have some newsletters called SLEN, Sri Lanka Engineering News. And also we have this quarterly journal called Engineer Journal. I was this the editor of the Sri Lanka Engineering News for 4 years. I remember Engineer Tilak de Silva invited me first to become this editor of this SLEN. So we made it digital now, right? So that if you just search in the web, that you can see this SLEN in the digital format, that you can find a lot of information, news about the engineering work. And we have CPD work that I have already told you, right? So that members have a lot of benefits in these CPD courses. I told you about the library service, and also we have benevolent fund. Engineer Tilak de Silva was the president for 2-3 years before, and so we gave a lot of help to others, those who were in trouble, right? So members, let's say they had undergone some surgeries, so then using this benevolent fund, we gave them assistance. And also during the COVID period, those who were hospitalized, that we helped from this IESL fund. And then sorry.